You move through life assuming the ground beneath you is solid, the past is set in stone, and your thoughts are truly yours. It all feels so obvious, so real, until you stop for just a moment and actually pay attention. Tiny cracks start to appear. Not in a big, dramatic way, but like little whispers in the background, hinting that maybe things aren't what they seem. Take something as simple as a mirror. You see your reflection every day, trust it without a second thought, but you've never truly seen your real face, only flipped versions stitched together by light, memory, and perception. Your brain isn't showing you reality, it's showing you what's useful to keep you moving. Your eyes pick up scraps and fill in the gaps. Your ears filter out most sounds. Even your memories, the ones you swear by, are quietly edited every time you recall them. Slightly shifting, stretching, inventing. Time feels like it flows steadily, but one boring hour crawls forever, while an entire year can vanish in a blink. It's not time that bends, it's your perception, always cutting, stitching, and directing what you call reality. And if all of this, your vision, your hearing, your memories, your sense of time, can be so easily tricked, then what exactly is real? What if everything you believe to be solid is just an illusion, carefully crafted by a mind that was never built to show you the full truth? Maybe it's time to take a closer look, starting with the very first thing that shapes your experience, the hidden filters of perception. 1. The hidden filters of perception. From the moment he opens his eyes, he believes he's seeing the world exactly as it is. The floor under his feet feels solid. The sounds around him seem trustworthy, and the face he sees in the mirror feels like a perfect reflection. But the truth slips through the cracks. Perception is not a mirror, it's a filter. The mind only allows in what it considers useful for survival. Everything else, the unseen energies, the finer details, the invisible truths, are quietly erased without permission. It's as if life hands him a highly edited movie, and he accepts it as the full experience without question. Take, for instance, a simple walk in the park. Most would say they see the trees, the sky, the people passing by. But if they really paid attention, they would notice how much their mind deletes. The subtle flicker of a bird overhead, the shift in the color of the sky, the hundreds of smells carried on the breeze. Perception isn't built for discovery. It's built for efficiency. This is why two people can stand in the same place and see two entirely different worlds, each mind coloring the blank canvas with different strokes. The illusion of reality is stitched into the very way we process existence. Here's something practical. For one day, slow down and question what's usually automatic. Pause at a traffic light and really observe your surroundings. Notice the things your mind usually filters out. The pattern of the leaves, the distant hum of a machine, the way the air feels against your skin. When you do this, you start to realize how perception shapes reality. You're not seeing what's there. You're seeing what your mind lets you see. It's a subtle awakening, but once it starts, it's hard to go back to sleep. And if what we see, hear, and touch is already being twisted before it reaches us, what about the stories we hold on to? The ones about who we are, where we come from, and what we've lived through. Maybe it's not just the outside world that's being edited. Maybe, just maybe, our very sense of self is a carefully rewritten memory. 2. Memories are just reinvented stories. Most people trust their memories like old friends, loyal, unchanging, reliable. But memory doesn't work like a recording. It's more like a campfire story, shaped and reshaped every time it's told. Each time he recalls a moment from childhood, his mind subtly edits the scene, maybe adding a detail, maybe smoothing over a rough edge. Over time, these small changes build into a new version of the past, one that feels just as real, but may have little to do with what actually happened. His perception of his own history is a living illusion, molded by emotion and belief. Picture someone who vividly remembers winning a race as a child. In his mind, He can still feel the breeze, hear the cheering. Yet, if he were to watch a real video of that day, he might find things shockingly different. Maybe the crowd was small. Maybe he even came in second. Consciousness doesn't store facts. It weaves narratives that protect pride, manage pain, and build a usable identity. And because these stories feel so real, we rarely stop to question if they're true. It's as if the mind is constantly editing a movie, but he's so deep in the story, he forgets he's both actor and director. A simple way to see this in action is through journaling. Write down a memory today, every little detail you can. Then revisit it a year later. You'll notice how parts will have shifted, expanded, or even vanished altogether. This little exercise reveals a stunning truth. Memory is fluid, not solid. Awakening to this fact isn't about losing trust in yourself. It's about realizing that the past you defend so fiercely might just be a creative invention, useful, but not absolute. And if even his deepest, most personal memories are nothing but shifting tales, it begs a bigger, more unsettling question. If the past is a dream stitched together by perception, what about the very fabric of time itself? How real is the ticking clock he thinks he lives by? 3. Time is not what you think it is. He looks at the clock, sees the minutes ticking by, and trusts that time is something real, something solid he can measure. But what he doesn't realize is that time, much like perception itself, is elastic, stretched and twisted by his own consciousness. A boring hour at work feels like it drags on forever, while a joyful afternoon with friends evaporates in what seems like seconds. It's not time that's changing, it's his mind distorting it. If time were truly a fixed flow, wouldn't every second feel exactly the same? The truth is, his experience of time is handcrafted by attention, emotion, and memory, making it one of the greatest illusions he unknowingly lives by. Think about a child playing outside, completely immersed in the moment, unaware of time passing. Hours slip by unnoticed. Now think about waiting in a sterile room for a doctor's appointment. Minutes crawl like centuries. His perception of time bends according to his engagement with life. This realization is powerful because it shows that time isn't a dictator ruling over him. It's a flexible experience he participates in. Consciousness isn't a passive receiver of time. It's an artist, painting his experience of it. Recognizing this opens the door to deeper freedom. He's not chained by time unless he believes he is. Want a practical experiment? Next time he's bored, instead of fighting the feeling, he can fully dive into the moment. Pay attention to every small detail. The texture of the chair, the hum of the lights, the rhythm of his own breath. What he'll find is shocking. Time starts to dissolve, moments become rich, and the agony of waiting fades. Awakening to this secret flips everything on its head. He's not a prisoner of time, he's the one coloring it in. And if time, the very thing he uses to measure his life, is this slippery, this unstable, then how much can he really trust the waking experience he calls reality? If dreams can stretch and twist time without him noticing, maybe dreams and waking life aren't as different as he's been led to believe. 4. Dreams and waking life blur together. When he's dreaming, everything feels real. The buildings, the conversations, even the emotions that surge through him. In the dream, he doesn't question the strange logic. He accepts it fully, moving through surreal worlds as if they were normal. It's only when he wakes up that he realizes how bizarre it all was. But what if waking up doesn't mean he's entered reality? What if he's simply stepped into another, slightly more consistent dream? Perception, once again, plays its old trick, convincing him that stability equals truth, when it may only be a thicker layer of illusion wrapped around his consciousness. Philosophers like Plato and Descartes hinted at this unsettling possibility centuries ago, warning that what we call reality could be nothing more than shadows on a wall or a masterfully crafted deception. Today, quantum physicists and neuroscientists echo the same unsettling hints. The double-slit experiment, for example, shows that observation changes reality itself. And if mere observation can rewrite the behavior of particles, how can he be so sure that the ground beneath his feet or the identity he defends are anything more than perceptual agreements built inside a collective dream? He can put this theory to the test with something as simple as a lucid dream practice. Tonight, before sleep, he can tell himself, "When I dream, I will realize I'm dreaming." Over time, with practice, he will start noticing strange patterns in his dreams, clocks melting, doors that appear out of nowhere, conversations that skip like scratched records. And one night, he will suddenly realize, "I'm dreaming." That moment shatters the illusion inside the dream, offering a taste of what it could feel like to wake up here too. It shows that awakening isn't about changing the world outside, but about changing the way he sees it. And if his dreams can fool him so perfectly, making him laugh, cry, and fight for survival inside a completely fabricated world, how can he be sure that waking life isn't doing the exact same thing? Maybe the I that moves through this so-called reality is just another character. And if that's true, then who or what is really behind the mask he's been wearing? 5. The illusion of the self. He spends his whole life convinced that there's a solid me navigating the world, making decisions, having preferences, building a story. Yet when he looks closer, he finds that what he calls himself is nothing but a collection of shifting thoughts, emotions, and memories. Neuroscience has shown that tiny changes in the brain can alter personality, beliefs, and even sense of identity. Consciousness isn't something generated by the brain like a factory producing widgets. It's more like a signal being received, like tuning into a radio broadcast. And if that's the case, then what he calls I isn't as stable or independent as it feels. Imagine a man waking up from a head injury who suddenly loves a style of music he once hated or speaks with a different accent. Did his real self change? Or was it always just a flexible program, easily rewritten by circumstance? If personality can shift with a blow to the head or a new environment, then maybe identity isn't a fortress at all. It's a tent flapping in the winds of experience. His consciousness tunes into different selves depending on what's happening around him. The self he defends so fiercely might just be another illusion of reality, stitched together by perception. A practical way to feel this is through mindful observation. When he gets angry, instead of saying, "I'm angry," he can notice, "There's anger appearing." Same with sadness, excitement, or doubt. It creates a little distance, enough to realize that he's not the emotion. He's the awareness, noticing it. With practice, life stops feeling so personal. He's not dragged around by every emotional wave. He's standing on the shore, watching the tides come and go. That's when true awakening begins, when he sees that consciousness isn't the character in the play, it's the stage itself. And if the I he believes he is can vanish, mutate, or shift depending on invisible forces, then what about the reality he's interacting with every day? If the self is fluid, maybe the world he sees is just as malleable, shaped and twisted by something far deeper than he ever imagined. 6. Consciousness shapes reality. He spent most of his life believing that reality is something out there, solid, fixed, completely independent of him. But experiments in quantum physics, like the mind-bending double-slit experiment, suggest something radically different. Particles behave one way when unobserved and another way when observed. In other words, perception itself seems to collapse possibilities into a chosen experience. Consciousness doesn't just witness reality, it actively participates in creating it. Every thought, every belief, every expectation acts like a lens, subtly bending the shape of the world he sees. Consider the placebo effect. A sugar pill heals not because it contains medicine, but because belief triggers the body's own healing response. That's not magic. It's the undeniable power of consciousness interacting with the illusion of reality. Or think about two people walking into the same room. One sees opportunity, the other sees danger. Their external reality didn't change, but their internal perception crafted two completely different worlds. Awakening isn't about finding a new world. It's about realizing that the one he's living in is already a reflection of his inner state. He can experiment with this by consciously shifting the way he frames small situations. Next time he's stuck in traffic, instead of defaulting to frustration, he can choose to see it as an unexpected gift of stillness, a chance to breathe, to listen to music he loves, to think. Watch how everything shifts when he changes his state of mind. The cars don't move faster, the sun doesn't shine brighter, but somehow the entire experience feels different. Consciousness bends reality, not by forcing outcomes, but by altering perception. And perception changes the game. And if a simple shift in attention can transform a single moment, imagine what might happen when he starts observing reality itself with new eyes, when he questions not just his reactions, but the invisible world behind them, the one his senses were never designed to fully reveal. 7. The invisible world around us. He walks through life surrounded by a vast ocean of information his senses can't even touch. The human eye sees less than zero. It would be 4% of the electromagnetic spectrum, just a thin sliver of light between infrared and ultraviolet. Beyond that tiny window, reality hums with waves of energy, sounds and colors that he'll never naturally perceive. Yet because he can't see them, he assumes they aren't there. It's like living in a mansion, but being trapped in a single, familiar room. Perception limits his experience, crafting a comfortable illusion of reality that hides far more than it reveals. Every so often, though, strange cracks appear. He feels someone staring at him and turns to find it's true. He dreams about a friend he hasn't seen in years, only to get a call from them the next day. Science often brushes these off as coincidence, but deep down, he knows something bigger is happening. Consciousness isn't just receiving filtered signals. Sometimes it seems to slip through the cracks, picking up whispers from the larger invisible world beyond his normal perception. Awakening begins with honoring these moments instead of dismissing them. He can start exploring this hidden reality through practices like meditation or energy scanning. Before entering a crowded room, he can pause for a second. Feel the mood without analyzing it. Is it heavy, light, joyful, tense? The more he tunes in, the more he'll notice subtleties that logic would normally sweep under the rug. These intuitive flashes are not fantasies. They are glimpses into a broader field of consciousness, one that extends far beyond the 5 senses he was taught to rely on. And if perception only lets in a tiny sliver of what's truly happening, maybe the life he believes he knows, the structures, the boundaries, the rules, is just a tiny island floating on an endless unseen ocean. And maybe, just maybe, it's possible to start rewriting the script he thought was set in stone. 8. Reality is a script you can rewrite. From the time he was a child, he was handed a script. This is your name, this is your country, this is how the world works. He memorized it without question because there was no other choice. But what he didn't realize is that this script was never carved in stone. It was stitched together by others who were following scripts of their own. His perception of reality, his sense of identity, even his idea of what's possible, all of it was inherited, absorbed without permission. Awakening means recognizing that the story he's living isn't the only one he could choose. Imagine someone who grew up thinking they were bad at math simply because a third-grade teacher once made a careless comment. That tiny script became a belief, which became a reality. They avoid numbers, they freeze on tests, they say, "I'm just not a math person." But what if that script had been different? What if instead they had been told, "You have a brilliant mind for patterns and puzzles"? Their entire perception of themselves would have shifted, and with it, their experience of reality. Consciousness doesn't just experience the world, it edits and shapes it from the inside out. He can start small right now. Pick one belief, just one, that feels heavy, limiting, or painful. Write it down, then write its opposite underneath it, even if it feels ridiculous at first. If he believes, "I'm unlucky," he can write, "Life constantly brings me unexpected blessings." For the next week, every time the old thought pops up, he can replace it with the new one, like a mental counterattack. Slowly, the mind starts rehearsing a new script. Reality, which once felt so rigid, begins to bend and soften under the weight of new perception. Because if the world he experiences is just a projection of the internal stories he repeats, then the real prison was never out there. It was built with words, beliefs, and invisible agreements made without awareness. And if that's true, if reality is a living, breathing script, then it means he's not a character locked into a doomed fate. He's the writer. The page is still blank. And maybe, just maybe, the dream he's trapped inside of can be rewritten into a waking masterpiece.